Folks, it took me nearly 2 months since release, but I finally finished Live Alive, the latest HD 2D game from Square Enix. Let's talk about it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Media, and today we're going to be doing a review for Live Alive. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, this is the latest HD 2D game from Square Enix. This isn't the first one I've actually beaten. You know, I have Octopath, and well, I guess Bravely Default 2 is an HD 2D, but these Team Asano games, and I think this was actually developed not by Team Asano, but Asano supervisor produced it. The main guy, you know, I've really wanted to play these games. I have Octopath, and I played a little bit of it, and I liked what I played of it. It's just a very daunting task getting into a huge game like that. Same thing with Triangle Strategy. I have that game. I haven't actually played that one, but from everything I've heard, it's fantastic. Those games are really long though, and I get a little scared at a long game. And I do intend on playing those soon, especially Octopath, because I want to play it in preparation for Octopath 2, because there's something about these style of like modern pixel JRPGs that Square Enix is doing that I can completely get behind. I really like what they're doing over there recently on the Japanese side. But Live Alive is kind of like the perfect little mini answer to all of my problems with that, with a long game. This is a very short game. I finished it in about 20-25 hours. Actually, probably less than that. I probably like more like 18 to 20 hours, I would say. And it's just a nice bite-sized experience with different stories, almost like an Octopath, but more separated. And overall, I really enjoyed it. My first impression, I actually tweeted out, was that I like a lot of what it's doing, but the execution was bad. And I think there are still moments in Live Alive that I think I personally don't like. I'll just say it, I don't think the gameplay is very good. I think that's probably my biggest takeaway. I think everything else that Live Alive does, it does pretty well. The presentation is incredible. It's honestly one of the most beautiful games I've probably played. It looks fantastic. You know, Octopath and Triangle Strategy, they're kind of more gritty, realistic. This is a very kind of almost goofy, colorful world. I'm thinking of like the prehistoric timeline where you play as Pogo, and it's just super colorful. The vistas and everything, they're super vibrant. This game looks fantastic. The music is fantastic as well. But then the gameplay, you know, when they announced this game in that Direct, I'd never heard of Live Alive before, because this game famously was never localized. It came into Japan on the SNES and then never got localized. I'd never actually heard of it. When I saw that first trailer, and you know, I could have done my due diligence, I could have looked up gameplay of the original and known immediately what this is going to be. I was under the impression each storyline, of which there are 8, I believe, I was under the impression that each storyline was going to offer a unique gameplay experience in terms of like the combat, right? So each story does have its own themes, and certain stories, like the distant future story, you pretty much don't fight anybody. The Wild West timeline's more so like setting up traps and then combat at the very end. And then, you know, like the Middle Ages, or I'm trying to think, like the near future, those are more like standard RPGs, well, especially Middle Ages with its random encounters. I think some of the chapters do this whole bite-sized story thing better than others, but I will say right off the bat, once again, could have done my due diligence and known this before the game came out. I was a little disappointed that the gameplay is all the same, because I don't think the gameplay is all that fun, per se. So you kind of have this tactics grid-based gameplay, and one thing I'll give it credit for is the variety of moves. With each story, each character, you know, you level up slowly, even though it's, you know, like a 2-hour story, sometimes less than that at times. You level up and you unlock more moves. You have a lot of moves. You know, you're not really seeing the same animations over again. The animations look beautiful. So the fights don't really stay repetitive. I just don't think I particularly like the way they did this tactics combat. It's not really tactics. It's not tactical. There's no real strategy in this game for me. And I think the difficulty balance also was a little askew. There were for the most part, the game's incredibly easy, at least for me. But then sometimes there's a boss, and it's just completely, I don't even know what's going on. And you know, at that point, I'll put a little strategy in, and then it's fine. But for the most part, you can kind of just breeze through this game's combat, and I don't particularly like that. I would have maybe preferred if it was a more standard tactics game. I think that would have been better. Although, since it's such a small grid, it's not like a big map or anything, I guess that would have been hard. So, if I have one truly negative thing to say about the game, it is the actual combat. I don't particularly love it. I don't hate it. I just think it could have been more. And maybe I also had that false expectation of each game having its own combat or something. That maybe that's also affecting my view on it. But let's get into the rest of the good, which is the rest of the game, because I think this game does pretty much everything else really well. I like the nice, bite-sized stories. That was kind of one of the things that when I started playing it, I think I beat the Ninja storyline and the Distant Future storyline, and then the Imperial China storyline. Like, those are the first ones I did because they were in the demo. When I beat those, I wasn't loving it, to be completely honest with you. I thought, it's a little too short for really to really develop any characters. And while that's still true, I think, they really don't have that much time to develop characters that much. What am I saying? It's still good. Looking back on each storyline, I have a fond memory of playing all of them now. Even though I might not, care too much about each of the side characters, each main character, which is what their goal was, each main character I do care about. I don't know all the names off the top of my head because I was naming them stupid things. Except Pogo, my boy Pogo. And I will say, I don't know what the consensus is. I almost want to watch someone do a Live Alive route tier list, because I really don't know which one's people's favorite. I personally love the prehistoric one. I thought that one was really funny with Pogo and the gorilla, and then his little GF that he's saving. I like the prehistoric one a lot. I also like the Wild West one a lot, and that one takes a more kind of puzzle approach. Like I mentioned, you set up traps for an hour, and then you fight the final big bads. But especially the Wild West, but this entire game, the voice acting is incredible. And this goes for Octopath and Triangle Strategy too, to be fair, but the voice acting in this game is, it's still jarring seeing these little pixels with fantastic voice acting, but there are some very good performances. But the Wild West one especially stood out to me in terms of that. And yeah, I think Live Alive does what it sets out to do pretty well. It has all these nice little bite-sized stories. It doesn't really over-exceed in terms of the story, I don't think. But like I said, once you finish it all and you kind of look back, at least me anyway, I have a nice memory. But it didn't necessarily blow me away or anything. Which, to be fair, usually a good JRPG will do that. So maybe that's a point against Live Alive. Who knows? Well, I know. It's not. I don't really view it that way, personally. It's just a different game. It's not going to be your standard JRPG. It's something that you can just kind of get into, get out, 20 hours, and you're good. And that's nice. It's a nice short story. I was doing one story a day for a week this past week, and I finished it, and now I'm done. It's nice. It's nice not having to think, damn, I still have 80 hours left, So it's nice for Square Enix to be putting out games like this. I mean, obviously this is a remake, but it's nice to have these more bite-sized games that you can, easily digest if you're a busy person with work or family or whatever, right? So having something more bite-sized and streamlined. These games are also very linear. They pretty much always tell you where to go. That's nice. I do want to talk about the Middle Ages chapter, though, because I think, and this is one thing I will say, I feel like certain chapters have more effort put into them than others. I think it was it was the present day timeline, where it's kind of like the Street Fighter tournament. That one's 30 minutes long, and it's cool. It's Street Fighter. You just go through a list of, I think, 6 or 8 fighters, and then that's it. And then you fight the final boss, who looks like Dhalsim. It feels like certain storylines had less effort. And the reason I brought up the Middle Ages chapter, which you unlock after you do all the other chapters, I'm not spoiling anything here. The Middle Ages chapter is easily the longest, not counting the final thing. Because there's random encounters. It feels like a proper JRPG. You build a party. You build a party over time of 4 members. It feels the most fleshed out. And it just feels a little unbalanced in that regard, because, you'll have that, which is 3 to 4 hours, I would say. And then you have the present day timeline, which took me 30 minutes. Or even, prehistory, I think, took me 2 hours. The far future took me maybe an hour and a half. And, there's not that much side stuff to do. You can't really stretch these out that much. It's pretty much point A, point B. You finish the story. So I don't know. It's a little weird, but also I guess it kind of kept me on my toes. I was never sure what to expect going into each story, because even the Near Future one was also pretty long. Each story is usually around an hour and a half to 2 hours, but the Near Future and the Middle Ages were like 3.5 hours. And then the final thing, which I'm not gonna get into, I will say, for those that know, when you do, okay, so you do the Middle Ages chapter, then you have 2 choices basically for other things you can do. Well, you have a couple choices, but you basically have 2 choices. You pick one character, you pick the other characters. There's a button you can press, and I accidentally pressed it in the menu during, like, there's like this little boss rush kind of thing you do. I accidentally pressed the button because I didn't know what it did. That was probably the funniest moment in the entire game, because if you know, you know. If you know, you know. If you played Live Alive, you know what I'm talking about. One of the funniest moments in the entire game for me, for sure. And I think, going back to the prehistoric timeline, that's just something I really do appreciate, was the sense of humor. That it got some decent laughs out of me. I was playing it with my friend Caleb on call, and he was laughing too. It's a funny game. It does not really ever take itself too seriously. It is a funny, goofy little game. Even I think the Imperial China storyline, there's some goofy yaps around, So overall, gameplay is the main issue for me. I think it's just a little disappointing, or at least underwhelming. But it's fine, and then everything else is fantastic. Presentation, the music, the voice acting. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I thoroughly recommend Live Alive. It is a nice bite-sized JRPG. And if it looks interesting to you, try it out. Just don't maybe expect the craziest gameplay systems in the world, That's maybe that was my shortcoming here. And one last thing I will say, another thing I think they maybe could have done better, although I'm trying to put like a little correction on a game from the 90s, right? So at this point, it's really moot. This is a remake. In terms of a remake, this is a fantastic remake. But going to the original release, something I think maybe that would have made me more interested in the storyline is if, once again, no spoilers, but if you know, you know. I wish each story had more ties to the other, or I even maybe wish they had just made you play them in a specific order. And maybe had more of a concise narrative throughout them. Not like the main narrative, but just like, little things, You play, you're playing Prehistoric Timeline, you see Pogo has a stick or something, and then in the Wild West timeline, you see that sticker. So something like that, just like little Easter eggs. And maybe those are there, maybe I just missed them, but something a little bit more like that. Maybe a more streamlined approach to how you progress through the game. I think maybe would have taken away from the game. Obviously, I don't know, because I didn't play it that way. But I feel like that maybe could have helped it, at least for me. But with that said, I did really enjoy Live Alive. It is the first HD 2D game I have finished. My goal is to finish at least Octopath before Octopath 2 comes out. And right now, you know what? I'm just on a huge Square Enix kick. I am going kind of crazy right now. It's like, there's so many great JRPGs I have not played. So I'm really trying to get through them. I'm also trying to, beef up my JRPG Switch collection, which, spoiler alert for my next biggest video, but I bought this because this was never got like a proper English release. It's like a Singapore release, I believe. Saga Frontier. I've never played a Saga game, so maybe I'll play that soon. There's DioField coming out. Various Day Life just came out, and I really want to test that out just because, like, the name's so funny that I really just genuinely want to try the game out. It's also from Tina Asano, so, like, respect. That definitely earned their place at this point, right? And just, yeah, Square Enix. I might do another video on this, because I did one back in, I think, August or July. Who gives them the right to release this many good games? This year specifically, it is unbelievable how many games they're releasing. Just this year alone, we still have, like I said, DioField Chronicle, Valkyrie Elysium, Star Ocean 6, I believe, Harvestella, which looks awesome, Tactics Ogre Reborn, Dragon Quest Treasures, and I think that's it for the rest of the year. Before they announce anything else, right? That's a lot of games. It's the end of September. So Square Enix popping off, and that's, not counting they already released Triangle Strategy, Live Alive, Crisis Core remastered or reunion, remake, whatever you want to call it, right? They keep calling it a remaster. That's totally a remake. So I might just do another video on that, because it's crazy how much they're releasing. But yeah, that's my review of Live Alive. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe for more Nintendo Switch and Square Enix coverage here on the channel. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. Bottom of my heart, thank you. I really do appreciate the support. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Botox Media for all my hot takes, which is what these are, but those are more instant because it's a tweet. And of course, you can join my Discord. That'll be linked down below. And until next time, folks, peace.